We are here at the Apache Death Cave in Two Guns, Arizona. Let's find this cave. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. I'm James.
I'm Crystal.
And this is Our Killer Obsession. Before we start, I just want to remind you guys that we are now on all major podcasting platforms. So if you like to listen on the go, be sure to check us out there.
All right, guys. Tonight I am bringing you a really interesting historical true crime story. Something we got a little hands-on with this spring.
Yeah.
It's the story of the Apache Death Cave. So, like I said, we were lucky enough to be able to stop and explore this area this spring during our travels. And we found the story of the curse of Two Guns, Arizona and the Apache Death Cave so interesting, we wanted to bring it to you here.
Yeah, it's really, really neat story. The cave was awesome and fun to explore.
Yeah.
And that's where we learned the history of it, and actually a pretty wild story.
Yeah, even got to meet a local, tell us a little more folklore from the area.
Mm-hmm.
The Apache Death Cave is located in now abandoned ghost town of Two Guns, Arizona. That's located off of I-40 between Flagstaff and Winslow. Like I said before, the area is abandoned now, but many people have tried to bring businesses to this area with no success. The area is said to be cursed. And it all started with the story of the Apache Death Cave. Historically, the Native American tribes of the Apache and the Navajo have been at odds and fighting over the land rights forever. The battles between the Apache and the Navajo tribes in Arizona and New Mexico were constant. In 1878, a group of Apache raiders attacked a Navajo encampment near the Little Colorado River. Almost every Navajo man, woman, and child were killed in the raid. When the Apache finished looting the encampment, only 3 girls remained, and they were taken prisoner by the Apache. When the Navajo leaders got word of this attack, they sent out a team of 25 men to avenge their fallen tribe members. They tracked the Apache across the land and blocked the borders to the region. However, their efforts failed and the trails went cold. News arrived that another nearby Navajo encampment had been raided, which meant that the Apache were still in the area. Scouts were deployed, again, 2 of whom were sent to check the short arm of Canyon Diablo. That's the area where the Apache Death Cave is, and that's where we got to explore a little bit.
Really cool area.
Mm-hmm. The scouts had found nothing until they were startled by a hot blast of air from underground. Upon further investigation, the scouts discovered that the hot air was coming from an Apache campfire in an underground cavern beneath them, large enough to house both the Apache raiding party and their horses. The scouts returned with the news of their discovery, and the Navajo came back with a vengeance. After killing 2 watchmen, they gathered up the dry sagebrush and driftwood on the canyon floor and started a fire at the entrance of the cave. Now, aware of the attack as smoke billowed into their hideaway, the Apache slit the throats of their horses and used what was left of their water to put out the flames, doing their best to seal off the entrance with their horses' corpses.
Wow. So they ran out of water trying to put the fire out. So then they turned to using the blood from their horses.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then tried to block the entrance with the corpses so nobody could come in and get them.
Holy cow.
A lone Apache man escaped from the fiery barrier and begged for mercy. The Navajo proposed the customary payment of goods and stock in exchange for forgiveness, and the Apache man agreed. However, when the Navajo asked about the 3 girls who had been captured, the Apache spokesman hesitated, confirming the Navajo's worst fears. The girls had been murdered.
Wow. Terrible.
Enraged, the Navajo shot into the cave and added more fuel to the fire. Smoke and the sound of the Apache singing death songs filled the air. 42 Apache warriors and their horses died in the fire.
My goodness.
From that point on, it is said that no Apache has used the cave for any reason. Local tribes warned would-be pioneers about the cave, saying the land around it was cursed, but settlers often passed off the stories as silly superstition. And the pioneers who lived there would later report hearing disembodied groans and ghostly footsteps outside their cabins. The horrendous stories of the massacre at the cave finally burrowing their way into their imaginations.
Oh my goodness, I can imagine. Wow.
The so-called curses didn't end with the ghost stories, though. Over the years, many men tried to bring business to the area, like we had said before.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 1920s, Earl and Louise Cundiff purchased at least up to 320 acres of land.
Wow.
around the Apache Death Cave.
Okay.
They established a gas station and an eatery at Canyon Lodge, which became a busy stop for those traveling to the West Coast, which would be I-40 now, but back then it was just an old road.
Okay.
Henry Two Guns Miller became interested in the possibility of establishing a business in the area and leased some land from the Cundiffs. Miller established a zoo with mountain lions and other desert animals. He also built a store right on top of the Apache Death Cave and sold the skeletal remains of the Apaches to tourists.
Yowza. That's... Wow.
Yeah. When we were there, the remains of some of these old buildings and the mountain lion zoo and stuff was still there. You can still roam around and check it out.
Yep. And obviously enter
Plus
the cave.
the cave.
Yep.
Yeah. So really cool area. The National Old Trails Road became part of U.S. Route 66 in 1926. And the flourishing town was officially renamed Two Guns. Two Guns, Arizona. On March 3rd, 1926, Miller got into a dispute with Earl Cundiff over the lease of the land and shot and killed him.
Oh, my goodness. Well, times were different. This is a long time ago.
1920s, yeah. Miller did not go to prison because he was acquitted of murder during his trial. But when Miller returned to Two Guns, he was mauled by 2 mountain lions and bitten by a poisonous Gila monster.
Man.
Became very ill and left Two Guns and never returned.
Tell me that's not something there.
Like a wicked curse, right?
Wow.
So, yeah. So the original owner of the land shot and killed. The leasee of the land mauled by friggin' mountain lions.
And bit by
a Gila monster.
A Gila monster, which we've spent some time in the desert and around there, and we have never seen a Gila monster in the wild.
No,
so
nope. They're supposed to be there.
That's elusive and random.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. Even with Miller out of the picture and the buildings relocated, Two Guns, or the land itself, seemed to still have a curse. It eventually sold in the 1950s, and for the next decade, the land and the buildings were leased and abandoned several times. Until Mr. Derher came along and brought new life to the town. A new service station, a motel, restaurant, and a gift shop opened up, and even the zoo received a makeover.
Okay, cool.
And for a few years, things seemed to be going well, and the I-40 was near completion, and the town itself was right off the exit of the freeway. But then the curse seemed to strike again. And in 1971, a massive fire destroyed the whole town.
Oh, no.
And Two Guns became the abandoned ghost town we know it to be today.
Dang.
And there's still a lot of mystery and folklore surrounding the area. And while we were there exploring this past spring, we met a local who came and told us a little more about it. And he was telling us a story about all the police chiefs and sheriffs and whoever from the surrounding town of Two Guns. And Two Guns had been moved over the highway a little bit, and there was a few people still living over that way. And he said every sheriff ever hired there died a mysterious death within the first year of working.
I mean,
every single one except for one.
I mean, come on. That's wild.
That's wild, right?
That's wild.
So do you believe in curses? Do you believe in Native American curses? I feel like the Native American folklore and what they believe is more believable.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. I'm on the, I'm kind of on the line whether you believe or not with some of this stuff. But I can tell you, being down in the cave, which we've been in several caves, but this one, it honestly just had an eerie feeling. And maybe that's because I knew some of the story beforehand. But it just felt different.
It did. It felt different. We've been in old mines and we've been in lots of caves.
Yeah.
But this one felt different.
Right.
Yeah. It was definitely spooky. I did not go as far as they did. It was creepy.
We went to a point and it got tight, and then I just wasn't comfortable anymore. And, we were just visiting at the time. So, yeah, I wasn't going too far into that one.
No. But if you're ever randomly on I-40 between Flagstaff and Winslow, Arizona, you can stop and check out the ruins. Check out the old Native American ruins and the Apache Death Cave.
The gas station is still standing with lots of actually really neat graffiti and artwork on it.
There's an old KOA in the back too, and the pool has been graffitied. It's kind of cool looking roadside stop.
Yeah.
Good picture opportunity.
The zoo.
The zoo is
the
still
old
there.
remnants of the zoo is still there.
Yeah, so it's a cool place to explore and to see the history and
if you
creep yourself out a little bit.
And if you're daring or brave enough, you can enter the cave. So
it's a little sketchy now. There used to be a wooden ladder that went down, and that has fallen in a little bit, so it's a little sketchier to get down in it, but you can still get down in it.
yeah,
Check it out. Feel like all the Apache eyes are on you.
I mean, yeah, I guess too, they say it's owned by a group of lawyers now who just simply tried to keep everybody like out and away from it, but they can't keep all the tourist attraction away because it's blown up in the past couple of years, especially with all the travel that's happening.
Yep. So that's the story, the really cool historical true crime story of the murder of the 42 Apache warriors and their horses at the Apache Death Cave.
And we just want to say thanks, as usual, for watching, and we hope you enjoy our shows. And if you could, please hit that thumbs up and subscribe. And don't forget, you can listen to us on all of your podcasting platforms. So if you would like to show your support or listen on the go, you can find us over there as well.
Yep. See you next week.